Part 164. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 1631. Chapter 1631. Hey, beauty is indeed a curse. The minister finally fell in love as he wished, but Assistant Sue did not feel relieved. Instead, he started a new round of worries. He was worried that Mo Shixiu, who was in love, would take relationships too seriously and would neglect work in the future. No, not later. Mo Shixiu now has signs of this. Assistant Sue didn't dare to think about what Mo Shixiu would be like in the future if he and Zhang Luli fell into a real love period. Hey, beauty is indeed a disaster. Since ancient times, heroes have struggled with beauty. Even a man like Mo Shixiu, who has been celibate for so many years, begins to lose control once he touches a woman. Assistant Sue complained silently for a while, but still booked the flight. Asterisk. 2 hours later, Mo Shixiu arrived in the city where Zhang Luli was. Nearly an hour later, he took a car to the community that Zhang Luli mentioned. The man's appearance is outstanding, and his height and temperament alone are enough to attract people. Even though he wore very large sunglasses, covering almost half of his face, he couldn't stop the eyes of the opposite passing by him from falling on him. Wow, that man looks so stylish. You have a really good figure. She is my favorite long-legged oppa. Why do I think he looks familiar? I seem to have seen him somewhere. I also think it looks a bit familiar. Do you think he looks like Mo Shixiu? Mo Shixiu? Minister of Security Mo Shixiu? He looks similar, but he is definitely not Mo Shixiu. How could Mo Shixiu come to our community? Yes, so I think they are just passers-by who look alike. However, they do look quite similar to Mo Shixiu. I just don't know if they still look so similar after taking off the sunglasses. At this time, Mo Shixiu, who was being discussed by a group of women, found the building where Zhang Luli was located, entered the elevator, and pressed the floor button. A minute later, he got out of the elevator and walked outside 1801. Assistant Sue stepped forward, stretched out his hand and knocked on the door. After a while, someone opened the door. Xiezuan put on an apron and opened the door. When he saw Assistant Sue and Mo Shixiu standing outside the door, his body froze and his fists clenched. He naturally saw it at a glance. The man with an extremely powerful aura standing behind Assistant Sue is Mo Shixiu. Having seen it on TV so many times, it still didn't shock him as much as seeing it in person. Because the Mo Shixiu standing in front of him was far more outstanding than the one he saw on TV. The man didn't say a word, but his aura was extremely strong. Xiezuan only looked up and felt a huge pressure. He immediately looked away. Is Miss Zhang here? Assistant Sue saw Xiezuan, frowned and looked up and down, his face a little unsightly. He raised his head with suspicion in his eyes and took a closer look at the house number. After confirming that he was right, his brows furrowed even more. Who is this man? How come you are in the same room as that girl Zhang Luli? Originally, this was not a big deal. But Zhang Luli is now the minister's girlfriend. She has to pay attention to her being in the same room with other men. Assistant Sue didn't want their minister to have a piece of Hulunbear Prairie on his head. That would be too insulting to their minister's reputation. And this is the first time the minister has fallen in love. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 1632. Chapter 1632. I will take you away now, let's go home. What if something like this leaves a shadow? So when Assistant Sue looked at Xiezuan, his eyes were hostile. Luoli is here. Xiezuan took a deep breath, mustered up the courage to look at Mo Shixiu again, hesitated, and asked in a low voice, is the gentleman behind you Mr. Mo Shixiu? Mo Shixiu looked at him and nodded slightly. He was anxious to see Zhang Luli and asked directly, Sir, Are you Luoli's friend? I am very worried about her condition. Can I go in to find her? Even though Mo Shixia was in a high position. But in front of Xiezuan, he did not show any sense of superiority. He still stood outside the door without Xiezuan's permission. Xiezuan naturally felt this. Mo Shixia's various behaviors made him feel even more uncomfortable. Because he had to admit that this was indeed a very good man, a man that he could not compare with at all. If he were Zhang Luli, who would he choose? The answer is obvious. In front of a man like Mo Shixiu, can a woman see other men in her eyes? At this moment, Xiezuan finally gave up. He felt a little sad and stood aside, giving up his position. Of course, Luoli is inside. Mr. Mo, please come in. With his permission, Mo Shixiu didn't waste a second. After nodding, he immediately walked into the room. As soon as he walked in, he saw Zhang Luli walking out of a bedroom. The two people looked at each other. Zhang Luli stared at him for a few seconds, then trotted towards him. Mo Shixiu. She called him in a somewhat aggrieved voice, threw herself into his arms, and hugged him tightly. Normally, if there were other people around, Mo Shixiu would push her away. At his heart, he is still a relatively conservative person and feels that being intimate in public is not a good behavior. But at this moment, Mo Shixiu hugged the girl who threw herself into his arms, letting her hug him tightly. Zhang Luli leaned her head on his chest and heard his originally steady and strong heartbeat slowly speeding up. She smelled the familiar scent of the man, and her sense of security suddenly returned, and all the anxiety and uneasiness in her heart disappeared. Mo Shixiu really came to find her. At this moment, Zhang Luli leaned in this man's arms and felt extremely at ease. Because she knew that as long as Mo Shixiu was by her side, no one else could harm her in the slightest. He will definitely protect her and prevent her from any harm. Even if they haven't been together for long, even if she doesn't know this man very well yet. But she had such trust in him. Luoli, don't be afraid. Mo Shixiu held the girl in his arms and felt at ease at this moment. While on the plane, he thought about countless possibilities. Every possibility scares him. Although he will never leave her no matter what happens, if those things cause harm to her, it cannot be easily repaired. Fine. None of the things he worried about happened. She seemed to be fine, nestled in his arms safely at the moment. Luoli, don't be afraid. I'm already by your side. As long as I'm here, no one can hurt you. Mo Shixiu reached out and touched her head, his voice softer than ever before. I'll take you away now, let's go back home. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 1633. Chapter 1633. He is so gentle. Zhang Luli nodded, unwilling to let go of his arms around his waist, still holding him tightly. Mo Shixiu, why are you here? You shouldn't be resting today, right? Mo Shixiu smiled, well, there are some things. But it's not too important. Assistant Su who followed him in. Mr. Minister, can you say it again? Isn't it very important? You sure? They are obviously very important things, okay. Then didn't I delay your work? Zhang Luli leaned on his chest for a while, slowly raised his head, and said with a little apology in his eyes, actually, you don't need to come, I haven't encountered any danger, there's no need to make the trip yourself. If I delay your work, I will feel guilty. After all, Zhang Luli knew exactly what kind of boyfriend she had found. The nature of Mo Shixiu's delay in work is different from that of ordinary people's delay in work. There is no delay. Mo Shixiu's voice was extremely gentle, I will never feel at ease if I don't come here in person. Even if I don't come, I can't calm down to work. Zhang Luli's heart trembled slightly. She looked at the gentleman in front of her, and the pounding feeling suddenly came out. At this moment, she was thinking that even if she and Mo Shixiu really had no results in the future, it would still be worth it for her to fall in love with him. Whether she will regret separation in the future, she doesn't know. But if we separate now, she will definitely regret it. So she decided to follow her heart. She didn't want to think about what happened in the future. Xiezuan went in with Assistant Su. But when he reached the door, he stopped. He couldn't tell how he felt when he looked at the scene of Zhang Luli and Mo Shixiu hugging each other. The two of them seemed to be a good match. Moreover, Mo Shixiu's attitude towards Zhang Luli was different from what he imagined. He thought, the relationship between Mo Shixiu and Zhang Luli is definitely not on an equal footing. In this relationship, Zhang Luli must have paid more, and because of the difference in status, Zhang Luli must be relatively humble in this relationship. But what he saw was not the case. Mo Shixiu seemed to care about Zhang Luli very much. Zhang Luli did not look humble in front of him. The two of them are in equal positions. In front of Zhang Luli, Mo Shixiu was just an ordinary man who cared about his girlfriend. Xiezuan felt increasingly sour in his heart. He wanted Zhang Luli to be happy. But seeing her so happy, he felt sad. Because the man who gave her happiness was not him. Assistant Su is a person who is very good at observing people's emotions, so Xiezuan's abnormal reactions were naturally noticed by him. He turned around, reached out and patted Xiezuan on the shoulder, and lowered his voice and said, "Brother, please stop thinking about it. Zhang Luli is our husband's woman, and you can't compete with our husband. You should give up. The woman who became our husband has broadened her horizons. She will no longer like any man except our husband." Xiezuan. How could he not know this? This man is really annoying, I have to stab him in the heart again. Don't be too sad after all, it's not a shame to lose to our husband. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 1634. Chapter 1634, Tell them she is my girlfriend. Assistant Su thought for a while and felt that what he just said seemed a bit excessive, so he comforted her again. There is a huge difference in strength between you and your husband. Miss Zhang will definitely choose our husband. This does not mean that your conditions are not good, but you really can't compare with our husband. Xiezuan. I beg you to shut up, okay? Hey, I can see that you like Miss Zhang very much. But don't worry about it anymore. You and Miss Zhang are destined to be inseparable in this life. If there is an afterlife, forget it. If there is an afterlife, Miss Zhang still wants to the one who is with our husband. She can only be our husband's woman. Anyway, don't worry about this person anymore. Xiezuan. This man is so annoying, I really want to beat him. In the past, I often saw him on TV going to various places with Mo Shixiu. He seemed to be a very serious person. Privately, is he such a badass person? It is true that people cannot be judged by their appearance. Asterisk. Mo Shixiu flew back and forth to several places, and when he arrived at the city where Zhang Luli was, it was already very late. It was too late for him to take Zhang Luli back to Yunqing. Because of this incident, Mo Shixiu felt a sense of crisis about Zhang Luli's situation for the first time, and was unwilling to let her go back alone. He directly asked Assistant Su to ask Zhang Luli for a week's leave. Zhang Luli was approaching her internship period and rarely went to school now. In addition, Mo Shixiu wanted to help her take leave. Not to mention a week's vacation, even a year's vacation was easy. Assistant Su asked for leave and told Mo yesi. After finishing speaking, he hesitated for a moment and then asked, "Mr. Minister, you took a week's leave for Miss Zhang. Are you planning to take her on a business trip with you?" In the study room of the hotel, Mo Shixia was reviewing a document. Hearing this, he raised his eyes and glanced at him, then nodded and said, "Well, I have such a plan. So please make arrangements and change my trip to be for 2 people. Assistant Sue." Mo Shixia actually decided this way. For a moment, the expression on his face was a bit hard to describe. Because he found that what he was worried about was already happening. The minister, who was a wise and martial man in their family, was stoic and never took women seriously, but he was really carried away by love. From the moment he dropped everything and came here to find Zhang Luli, to the moment he decided to take Zhang Luli with him on a business trip abroad, all the above behaviors were abnormal. This is something he would never have done before. That woman Zhang Luli is really amazing. How long have you been with their minister, and he has become so obsessed with him? Mr. Minister, are you sure you want to bring Miss Zhang with you? If so, I'm afraid it will cause inconvenience to your next trip. Moreover, there are several private banquets in your trip this time. When the time comes, you will also have to attend. Will you take Miss Zhang with you? If someone asks about your relationship with Miss Zhang, you. Mo Shixia did not hesitate. I will introduce her to them generously and tell them that she is my girlfriend. Assistant Sue. Forget it, just pretend he didn't ask. He decided to take the person there, and he definitely didn't think about hiding him. Those private banquets were said to be private banquets, but in fact the people they met were all very special people. Those attending the banquet are not even allowed to bring female companions. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 1635. Chapter 1635. This flattery makes the whole person feel greasy. Except family members. If Mo Shixia wanted to take Zhang Luli with him, it would be acknowledging that Zhang Luli was his family member. This is, planning to marry Zhang Luli. When he thought that Zhang Luli might become the minister's wife, Assistant Sue felt that he should be more respectful to Zhang Luli in the future. Otherwise, what if that girl had with the minister or something? Would his little assistant still have a good life? I understand, Mr. Minister, I will go and make arrangements for the trip right away. Assistant Sue left the study room. As soon as he walked out, he saw Zhang Luli walking over with a cup of coffee. Miss Zhang. After once again clearly realizing Zhang Luli's importance in Mo Shixia's heart, Assistant Sue's attitude was a bit more polite than before, and even a little respectful. Subconsciously, he already regarded Zhang Luli as the future minister's wife. Given the character of their minister, as long as Zhang Luli doesn't cause any trouble that cannot be dealt with, the chance of her marrying the minister in the future is quite high. Even though her family background is not good enough for Mr. Minister. But as long as the minister identifies her, even if Madam and the others disagree, it is useless. Just like the second young master married an ordinary girl first and later. These two brothers are both people with their own opinions. Those who are determined will not separate because of opposition from their family members. After all, they are not relying on the Mahist family now, but the Mahist family relies on these two brothers to become stronger and stronger. This is different from those playboys who live a privileged life depending on their family and cannot support themselves once they leave. Assistant Sue, is Mo Shixia still busy now? Zhang Luli just made a cup of coffee and wanted to send it to Mo Shixia. Although Mo Shixia came to look for her regardless of his busy work, now that he had ensured her safety, he went back to his official duties. Knowing that he had many things to do, Zhang Luli didn't dare to disturb him. She handed the freshly brewed coffee to Assistant Sue. Bring the coffee in for him. Miss Zhang, please take it in. Assistant Sue did not reach out to take it. I'd better not go in and disturb him. Where is it? Assistant Sue said immediately. Miss Zhang, go in, the minister will be happy to see you. When he is happy, he will be more motivated to work. With more motivation at work, the efficiency will be much faster. So Miss Zhang, not only will it not disturb him, but it will also improve his work efficiency. Miss Zhang, you are the minister's pick-me-up. The corners of Zhang Luli's lips twitched. Why did she feel that Assistant Su suddenly became flattering? Is it her imagination? Although she and Mo Shixio officially dated, Assistant Su treated her very well. However, it was not as flattering as it is now. Come on, Miss Zhang, come in quickly, the minister needs your cup of coffee now. Assistant Su also opened the study door very thoughtfully. Zhang Luli. This is really not her illusion. Assistant Su is really flattering a lot. This flattery made the whole person feel greasy. Zhang Luli looked at him, the corners of his mouth twitched twice more, thought for a moment, and walked in with the coffee. After she entered, Assistant Su gently closed the door and then walked out of the presidential suite. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 1636. Chapter 1636, of course I learned it for you. Asterisk. After Zhang Luli entered the study, he saw Mo Shixia concentrating on handling official duties. Even when she came in and walked to the desk, he didn't even raise his head. Zhang Luli couldn't disturb him either. Mo Shixia has wasted a lot of time for her. She put the coffee gently on the table and wanted to leave. As soon as I turned around, I heard Mo Shixia's clear voice behind me, "Did you make me some coffee?" Zhang Luli turned around and saw that he had just put the document in his hand on the table, picked up the cup of coffee she had made and took a sip. Well, I brewed this, how does it taste? In the past, Sister Lin always brewed coffee at his residence. Zhang Luli learned it from Sister Lin. Although the taste won't be exactly the same as Sister Lin's, she thinks it should be about the same. She knows nothing about his work. Even if I want to help him share the burden, I can't. The only thing I can do is make him a cup of coffee and cook some midnight snacks. Mo Shixia took a sip, his brows widened a little, and the corners of his mouth slightly raised. It's pretty good. How do you know I like to drink black coffee? Sister Lin told me. So, it was Sister Lin who taught you how to make it. This cup of coffee tastes very similar to the coffee made by Sister Lin. Zhang Luli nodded. Yes, Sister Lin taught me. Mo Shixia curled his lips again, lowered his head and took a few sips, then raised his head and looked at her. Why do you remember learning to make coffee from Sister Lin? Of course it's for you, Zhang Luli said bluntly. Mo Shixia was startled, and the man's handsome and noble face suddenly felt a little warm. He lowered his head, covered his lips and pretended to cough twice to cover up his strangeness. Yes, is that so? Zhang Luli hadn't noticed anything strange about him yet, so he nodded and said, well, of course I learned it for you. I don't like drinking this kind of bitter coffee. Sister Lin said you like it, so when I have nothing to do, just learn from her, that way, I can still make coffee for you when she's not here. The man's face was already a little hot, but after hearing her words, the heat on his face became even more intense. It's not like he has never met a woman who confessed her love to him face to face. But when he heard other women's confessions, he felt calm in his heart. But every word Zhang Luli said had a great impact on his emotions. She was not confessing her love to him yet, but his mood could no longer remain calm. Do you really think it tastes good? Well, that's good. Zhang Luli felt happy and said with a smile, then I can make coffee for you. Okay, you can continue your work and I won't disturb you. I'm going out first, so don't work too late. Although work is important, body is more important. If you are hungry, tell me. I just saw that there are some ingredients in the refrigerator in the kitchen that can be used as a midnight snack. Amo Shixia lowered his eyes and nodded, yes. He thought for a moment and then asked, can you cook? Of course. Zhang Luli raised his chin, this is a life skill that everyone must learn. When I was still in junior high school, I knew how to cook. But now I do less and my cooking skills are unfamiliar. A lot, but I'm fine with basic home cooking. Amo Shixia smiled, this is indeed the most basic life skill. But there are not many girls who can cook now. Then are you happy? End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 1637. Chapter 1637. How can he not make a woman fall in love with him? The man was stunned for a moment, then raised his head in confusion, huh? Zhang Luli looked at him with a smile, smiled sweetly and said, because you have found such a virtuous girlfriend like me. Not only can I make you coffee, but I can also cook for you in the future. Aren't you happy? Amo Shixia was stunned for a few seconds, his Adam's apple rolled, and he let out a deep and joyful laugh, well, I'm happy. Zhang Luli smiled when he saw him, and couldn't help but raise the corners of his lips. Okay, I really won't disturb you anymore, you can do your business first. Amo Shixia flipped through the documents in his hand and raised his head. Zhang Luli blinked and looked at him, what's the matter? You just said, you can make me a midnight snack. Amo Shixia had a little expectation in his eyes. Zhang Luli was stunned for a moment and nodded, yes. Are you hungry now? I can make it for you right now. But I don't know how to make it too complicated. I will make noodles or something. If you don't, if you like. I like it. Before she could finish speaking, Amo Shixia interrupted her gently, no matter what you do, I like it. Hearing this, Zhang Luli felt happy. A sweet smile appeared at the corner of her mouth, okay, then you wait, I will do it now. There is seafood in the refrigerator, can I make seafood noodles? Okay. Amo Shixia looked at her with soft eyes, I will eat whatever you do. Zhang Luli met his gentle, deep eyes that seemed to be glowing with water, and her heart beat faster. How can a man like Amo Shixia not make a woman fall in love with him? He has all the capital to make women fall into him easily. He had such a pretty face, and he smiled so gently at her, and even his tone of voice was extremely gentle. How could she resist such a man? This is simply her super ideal type. She was wondering if she had saved the universe in her previous life. That's why God was so kind to her and placed a man as good as Amo Shixia next to her. Asterisk. Zhang Luli came out of the study, the corners of his lips still raised. She is in a very good mood. Even though so many bad things happened before, it didn't affect her. Until she received a call from Jiang's mother. Zhang Luli, what's the matter with you? I entrusted you to Zuan for your own good. Why did you let Zuan come back alone? Don't you know that the person you provoked is the one who offended our Zhang family? Are you someone who can't afford it? Are you deliberately trying to bring bad luck to the Zhang family? Zhang Luli didn't expect that she didn't call Jiang's mother, but Jiang's mother took the initiative to call her. And he even started to accuse her of all sorts of things as soon as he opened his mouth. I know now that what happened to your brother is also because of you. You said, what kind of trouble did you cause outside to harm our family like this? The trouble you caused made them look for you. Why did you harm your brother? Let me tell you, if Xiaohei is hurt again because of you, I will never forgive you in this life. You come back right away and go argue with Zuan for evidence, do you hear me? Zhang Luli looked cold and said nothing, waiting until Mother Zhang finished speaking. Zhang Luli, did you hear what I just said? Mother Zhang didn't hear her response and became even more angry, don't pretend to be dead for me, go home quickly, did you hear me? Ms. Lin, are you finished? End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 1638. Chapter 1638. Do you want to let go now? Zhang Luli's voice was surprisingly calm and cold as never before. I heard every word you said clearly. I'm telling you right now, I will never go back to that so-called home. What did you say? Mother Jiang's voice boomed like a cat whose tail was stepped on. Say it again, what did you mean just now? What do you mean you won't come back? Do you want your home? Zhang Luli sneered, with ridicule in his eyes. When you made your choice, you didn't treat me as your daughter. In your eyes, only Xiaohei is your child. As for me, it's just dispensable. Since I am dispensable in your hearts, what's the point of that so-called home if I can't go back? The only thing I should be thankful for now is that you handed me over to Brother Zuan instead of other men. Otherwise, who knows what will happen now? Mother Zhang seemed not to have expected that she would say these words. After a while, she said angrily, "What's wrong with Zuan? Our families have known each other for many years. You and he also grew up together. He is such an outstanding child. What's wrong with him? Not good enough for you? Do you really think you'll be a big star just because you went to some film school? I just saw that the child is reliable and our two families know each other well, so I entrusted you to him. How can you say that I don't treat you as a daughter for all my hard work? Zhang Luli, you still have I have no conscience at all. I worked hard to give birth to you in 10 months of pregnancy and worked hard to bring you up. Is this how you repay me? If it weren't for you, would our Zhang family have gotten into such trouble? You want to let it go now, do you still have a conscience? Zhang Luli's voice was still calm. I will solve this matter. If there is nothing else, I will hang up. After she finished speaking, she hung up the phone without waiting for any response from Jiang's mother. Subsequently, Jiang's mother's mobile phone number was blocked. After doing all this, her eyes suddenly felt a little sore, and her nose was also a little sore. She still can't completely ignore it. She will still feel sad when faced with her parents' favoritism. Even though they have been so partial for more than 10 years. But she has lived in the Zhang family for so many years. Even if she doesn't care at all on the surface, how can she really not care at all? Zhang Luli felt very sad and wanted to find someone to talk to. She called Qiao Mianmian's mobile phone number. Asterisk. It was already very late when I received a call from Zhang Luli. Qiao Mianmian had already fallen asleep and was woken up by the sound of her cell phone vibrating. She took the phone and saw an unfamiliar number displayed on the screen. She wanted to hang up, but her finger accidentally pressed the connect button. A familiar voice came into her ears, with a crying tone, "Baby, it's me." Lolo, Qiao Mianmian looked at the time and saw that it was already past 1 in the morning. She looked at the sleeping man next to her, not wanting to disturb him, so she quietly got out of bed and walked to the balcony to answer the phone. "Lulu, what's wrong with you? Are you crying?" In the afternoon, she contacted Zhang Luli and felt relieved after learning that Mo Shixiu had found her. But now when she heard Zhang Luli crying on the phone, Qiao Mianmian suddenly became worried. End of this chapter. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 1639. Chapter 1639. I'm afraid she'll be more ruthless next time. Baby, are you already asleep? Did I wake you up? Because she had to shoot early in the morning, Qiao Mianmian went to bed very early. When Zhang Luli called her, she was sleeping very deeply. But she lied, I just lay in bed for a while, and I haven't fallen asleep yet. Where is the male god? Is he with you? Well, he fell asleep. So I went to the balcony to answer the phone. The temperature in the early morning was a bit chilly, and the wind blew on Qiao Mianmian's face, blowing away her remaining sleep. Luo, it's so late, why haven't you slept yet? Chiao Mian said with worry, did something happen? Is Mo Shixia with you? Can't sleep. Zhang Luli was silent for a while, and then said, he is with me. Coming to me has taken up a lot of his time. He is still busy in the study. Baby, are you sleepy now? Chiao Mian realized that Zhang Luli had something to say to her, so she said, I'm not sleepy, I went to bed very early today. Luo, is there something you want to tell me? Well, I don't know if I should tell you, but now besides you, I don't know who else to talk to about these things. Baby, I want to tell you something. I want you to help me, give me some advice. Zhang Luli was silent for a few more seconds before continuing, baby, you know that Xiao Hai was arrested because he owed someone else a sum of money. But do you know who set the trap for him? Although there's no complete evidence yet, but I'm sure she was the one who set up the trap. Chiao Mian had doubts in her eyes, who? MRSMO. MRSMO. Chiao Mian was surprised for a few seconds, with a surprised look on her face. Did she set up a trap? So she set up a trap to arrest Xiao Hai, but the target is actually you. Does she want to use Xiao Hai to force you to leave Mo Shixiu? Absolutely, but her methods are more powerful than you think. She didn't directly use Xiao Hai to force me to leave Mo Shixiu, because she knew that her son was capable of paying back the 10 million. She threatened my parents, let my parents help her solve the problem. If I just agreed to leave Mo Shixiu, I might regret it at some point. But if I marry another man, she has nothing to worry about. Chiao Mian was surprised again, you mean, she forced you to marry someone else? She went to my parents, but I don't know what they talked about. In short, my parents wanted me to marry another man because of Xiaohe. Fortunately, that man was a neighbor I had known since I was a child, otherwise I wouldn't have known that I had opened my eyes. Open your eyes and see what you will face. Mian, do you think I should tell Mo Shixiu about this? If I tell him, will he side with me or with his mother? If he turns to his mother, do you think he and I can break up? Mo Shixiu was very kind to her. But Zhang Luli did not have absolute confidence that Mo Shixiu would stand by her side. After all, MRSMO is his biological mother. Mo Shixiu must be a filial person. Zhang Luli never expected that he would fall out with MRSMO because of her. Chiao Mian thought seriously for a while and then said, Luo, if you are asking for my opinion, I think you can tell him. This time MRSMO failed, there is no guarantee that there will be another time. You alone have the power, it's impossible to fight against MRSMO. I'm afraid she'll be more ruthless next time. Only by letting Mo Shixiu know about this matter and let him come forward to solve it, can it be solved. Even if the problem is not solved well, with his ability, he can still protect you. I believe he is not a foolish and filial person, and he will definitely be on your side. When Mo Yesi and I first got together, I was worried about the same thing as you. But his performance did not disappoint me. I believe Mo Shixiu is the same, and I will definitely not worry about it because MRSMO is, damn it, it doesn't matter. End of this chapter. I secretly got married to a super boss. Author, Dance Lightly. Chapter 1640. Chapter 1640. This is fine, just treat it as a test. If he really favors MRSMO regardless of right or wrong, then you can really reconsider your relationship. Originally, we were talking about an unequal relationship. In the case where the identity gap between the two is extremely large, if Mo Shixiu does not stand on her side, it will be difficult for this relationship to continue. There will be no good results. If Mo Shixiu can't bring happiness to Zhang Luli, Chiao Mian naturally doesn't want them to continue to be together. Because what happened this time cannot be the last time. If MRSMO succeeds once, there will be a second or third time. If Mo Shixiu doesn't protect Zhang Luli's situation will be very dangerous. After Zhang Luli was silent for a moment, he said, "Well, baby, I know what I should do. In fact, when I first got together with Mo Shixiu, I knew that we would definitely face some problems in the future. No, I didn't expect it to come so early. That's fine, let's treat it as a test. If it can pass, then continue to be together. If it can't pass, it's better to break up early. Anyway, the relationship is not very deep now. If we separate, we won't be sad." Zhang Luli spoke very freely. But how could Xiao Mian not know that she was not as free and easy as she appeared to be? Mo Shixiu is Zhang Luli's ideal type. Zhang Luli will definitely be sad if they are really separated. Furthermore, this is also the first time Zhang Luli has fallen in love, and the meaning is very different. So Xiao Mian still hopes that they can have a good result. "Luo, please have a good talk with Mo Shixiu." "Yes, I will, baby. Do you still have to film tomorrow? Go to bed quickly." "What about you, aren't you sleeping yet?" "I'm not sleepy. I'm going to the kitchen to make some midnight snacks for Mo Shixiu." "Baby, I'm going to hang up. Good night, have a sweet dream." "Okay, good night. If you need anything, call me again." Xiao Mian hung up the phone and stood there thinking for a while. Just as she turned around to go back indoors, she saw Mo Yesi standing behind her. She was startled. He stretched out his hand and punched Mo Yesi's chest lightly. "Are you awake? When did you wake up? Why did you wake up so silently? It scared me." Mo Shixiu gently held her soft little hands and smiled. "I just woke up for a while. It's not that I was silent, but you were too engrossed in chatting and didn't notice me." "Who called you so late?" "Zhang Luli." Why is she calling you at this hour?" Xiao Mian hesitated for a moment, raised her head and looked at him and said, "Mo Shixiu, do you know how Luo's brother owed someone money this time and was caught at the police station?" Mo Shixiu knew that she didn't ask this casually. "Did Zhang Luli say something to you?" "Well, Luo called me and told me something." "What's up?" Knowing that Mo Yesi was not the kind of foolish and filial person, Xiao Mian did not hide it from him and told him directly. "Luo told me that her brother was set up. And the person who set up the setup, might be Mom." Mo Yesi was stunned and narrowed his eyes. "Did Mom set up a trap?" "Yes. She did this because she wanted Luo and her eldest brother to separate. She was very dissatisfied with my family background at the beginning, but you got the marriage certificate from me first and later, and she had no time to stop it. But Luo and eldest brother not married yet, she definitely doesn't want Luo to marry her eldest brother." End of this chapter.